You made a decision, a simple one, and then, without anyone asking, you explained it, then justified it, then defended it, then apologized for it. And somewhere in the middle of all that explaining, you realized you weren't talking to them anymore. You were talking to the version of yourself that still doesn't believe it has the right to simply exist without a reason. Friedrich Nietzsche identified one of the most quietly devastating patterns in human psychology, what he called slave morality. Not slavery in the physical sense, but a psychological condition in which a person structures their entire existence around the approval, the judgment, and the permission of others. Slave morality says, your worth must be justified, your choices must be explained, your existence must be made comfortable for the people around you. Nietzsche contrasted this with what he called master morality, the psychology of a person who creates their own values from the inside out, who acts without needing to explain the action, who decides without needing to justify the decision, who exists without needing to make that existence easier for others to accept. The difference between these two ways of moving through the world is the difference between a life lived freely and a life lived in permanent, invisible trial. But here's what Nietzsche didn't tell you, and what psychology fills in. You didn't start over-explaining as an adult. You started as a child in an environment where your feelings needed to be justified before they were valid, where your needs required explanation before they would be met, where your emotions were only acceptable if you could prove they were reasonable. So you learned to pre-justify, to explain before being questioned, to defend before being attacked, to apologize before anyone had even decided to be offended. And you got so good at it, so fast at it, that by adulthood it became completely automatic. You don't even notice you're doing it anymore. You just feel this quiet, uncomfortable compulsion, this tightness, every time you make a choice without immediately packaging it in a reason someone else can accept. Psychologists identify over-explaining as a behavior most commonly associated with three specific backgrounds. People who grew up in emotionally unpredictable environments, where they learned to manage other people's reactions before their own needs. People who experienced chronic criticism, where every decision was scrutinized until justifying yourself became a survival strategy. And people who were consistently made to feel like a burden, where simply existing required constant proof that the existence was worthwhile. Research in attachment theory shows that people with anxious attachment styles, formed in childhood through inconsistent caregiving, are significantly more likely to over-explain, over-justify, and over-apologize in adult relationships, not because they are weak, not because they lack confidence, but because their nervous system was literally trained to anticipate disapproval and neutralize it before it could arrive. Here is what the habit of over-explaining is actually doing to you. Every time you explain a decision that required no explanation, you signal to the other person that your decisions are up for debate. You invite the very scrutiny you were trying to avoid. Every time you justify a boundary you set, you suggest that the boundary is negotiable, that if they push back hard enough, it might move. Every time you apologize for a feeling you had, you teach yourself that your emotional experience requires permission, and perhaps most damaging of all, every time you over-explain, you exhaust yourself, because over-explaining is not communication. It is performance, it is management, it is the psychological labor of making other people comfortable with your existence. And it never ends, because no amount of explaining will ever be enough for the people who fundamentally believe you owe them one. Nietzsche's answer to all of this was characteristically blunt. Stop, not gradually, not with permission, not after you've explained why you're going to stop explaining. Just stop. He believed that the act of over-explaining was not just a habit. It was a declaration that says, I do not trust my own judgment enough to stand behind it without your endorsement. And the antidote, the only real antidote, was what he called the revaluation of values. The deliberate decision to stop measuring your worth by other people's reactions to your choices. To act from your own internal compass. To speak from your own genuine perspective. To exist without the running commentary of justification that has been narrating your life for so long, you've mistaken it for your own voice. Your decisions do not require a defense. Your boundaries do not require an explanation. Your feelings do not require a reason. You are allowed to simply be. The next time you feel that familiar tightening, that compulsion to explain, to justify, to make your choice more palatable for someone else, pause. Ask yourself one question. Am I explaining this because it genuinely needs to be explained, or am I explaining it because some part of me still believes I need permission to be who I am? Because you don't. You never did. The people who truly belong in your life will not require a presentation every time you make a decision. They will simply trust that you had your reasons, and so should you. If this described something you've never had words for, share it with someone still justifying their existence to people who never deserve the explanation. Subscribe to Mind Patterns, because the most dangerous thing you can do is keep explaining yourself to people who are never really listening.